Hello and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 18th of November. It's Gary here again, coming to you from a very, very snowy Calgary today. And you know what, I was just saying to a couple of the boys this morning that Mother Nature must sit there and go, right, listen, we're going to give them a couple of wee bouts of snow just to kind of let them know it's coming. I understand that. Then when it's really on its way, let's do it on a Monday morning. Let's do it first thing on a Monday morning where the Sunday is really nice and pleasant, and then the Monday will just boot them right up the backside and we'll give them that to contend with as they try and get to work, as they try and get their kids to work, or whatever it is you're trying to do outside. Man, oh man, it is kind of wild out there. And I just drove past not so long ago a wee Mini Cooper the opposite way, basically in a garden, taking down the post boxes and sitting there. It was bright green. That's what you get when you buy a bright green car, I think it's fair to say. Anywho, enough about the weather. It's not a weather report, is it? To start off with, last week I said, and I don't know that if I've said this before or not, but I said Happy Remembrance Day, and I got a little bit of stick about that from my love, Erin, who is a long-term member of I guess it's the Royal Canadian Legion, and she just kind of laughed at me for saying Happy Remembrance Day. So my sentiment was, I want to acknowledge Remembrance Day. I wasn't saying that it's a happy occasion, but there is some happiness in there in terms of our ability to be able to reap the benefits from all the sacrifices that our service women and men have made for us over the years. So if in any way that sounded odd or in any way that was upsetting to you, that's definitely never ever my intent. And I just meant to say, I don't know, like what would the first word be then? Solemn Remembrance Day, poignant Remembrance Day. I'll figure it out between now and next year and wait till you see what I've got for you next year. I've only got 51 weeks to try and figure something out. Whoops. So, this is the last international break, as you know, so there's not a hell of a lot going on, certainly not a lot going on that we know about from the club, but thankfully today is it's the final day of the Nations League international football. I don't know if there's any more football tomorrow that would maybe impact our players who are on international duty. I was going more from a frame of reference of when Scotland's last game is, which is kind of odd because there's only 2 players in the Scotland squad, but that was my frame of reference anyway. But thankfully today is the last day at international level for the folks that are away, which is kind of nice because I think if you're a regular listener, you know how I feel about international breaks. And then we're back to action this week with, interestingly, one of only 2 matches to close out November and then set us up for a massive December. 8 games in December, which includes games in 3 different competitions, including, of course, the League Cup final in the middle of the month. So what's been happening in the club? It doesn't feel like a whole hell of a lot, does it? There's certainly been nothing that's been overly advertised. I've got a couple of things in the communication section today that is, basically the club putting some stuff out there for consideration, for booking and such. I'll get to that as I say, but like I said last week, still no new chairman, and still no new CEO, and no rumblings of that. And I started to think about this last week in terms of what's the actual criteria for being chairman of Rangers. Is it you're an existing board member, you kind of get it, you get the support and the, what would you say, the nomination for the role, and then the rest of the board agree that you should be the chairman? Or is it a recruited position? It doesn't feel like it's a recruited position. It feels like it's more of an internal promotion rather than the CEO, which is certainly, it's been advertised and communicated the fact that it is an open competition out in business land there. So I kind of wonder what the delay is on the chairman, to be perfectly honest, because the chairman for us, even back to my early days, very, very early days, where it was David Holmes, and then the mainstay for my youth was David Murray, and then, the subsequent changes that have happened since then, there was always like a figurehead, like if you look at what Dave King did when he came back in 2015 and up to his successes that he enjoyed, prior to leaving, it was one of those things where you look to the chairman to say, lead this club, guide this club, tell us what we need to know. Don't stand for any garbage from the press or anywhere else, and really stand up. And I felt back in the day David Murray did that, notwithstanding all the other stuff he didn't do. And Dave King absolutely did that. And I just don't know that there's anyone else who is willing to do that. I can't see John Bennett wanting to come back if hopefully that when he does get over his health challenges. He's already had a go at it. The Parks didn't seem to be overly enthused about it either. So maybe I should put my hat in the ring here. Maybe I should get a petition going of some description and say, Gary for chairman. I've got something to talk about a little bit later on about that too. So anyway, game segment, of course, no games this past week. Scotland finally won a game. They hadn't won a game in something like 15 games. I actually did have the game on, so I'm not going to be hypocritical and say that I didn't see it, but I just put it on in the background when I'm working, especially when there's a Rangers player playing. And John Souttar once again starred for Scotland in central defence, and that's, we should hopefully have Philippe Clement looking and saying, how can you be such a standout at international level and not be quite as much of a standout? I say that with one eye or one foot certainly in the John Souttar has had an absolutely brilliant season for us this year, and is certainly in contention with, if not a front runner for my player of the year, absolutely for Rangers this season. But there seems to be there's another level in there for the guy. So is it the pairings? Is it the setup of the team? Is it the style, the formation, the flow? I'm not 100% sure, but it's great to see him doing well. He took a very nasty stud to the knee just before half time, and there was a bit of confusion. I thought he was subbed at half time, but he wasn't. He came back on, which is great, because it looks like Philippe Clement in his first year, certainly the first 6 months of the year, was lamenting the fact that our fitness regimes, our health regimes, our routines, using the cryo chamber or not using the cryo chamber as it were, was contributing to the massive amounts of injuries that we have. And look at this year, we don't have the same amount of injuries, so they're certainly onto something. And this is the most amount of games that John Souttar has played in a row in his entire career. So this is great news, and it looks like that sort of stuff is working in the background. The people that are injured for us in terms of genuine first teamers are the folks that kind of always seem to be injured for us, aren't they? Maybe there's one or two who aren't, but I'm not going down that rabbit hole for today. But anyway, great to see John Souttar doing well there, and hopefully Connor Barron is getting some great experience and exposure well in and around the squad too. So we do have the one game this week. It's back to league action at home to Dundee United. Saturday the 23rd of November, and that's a 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff, 3 p.m. UK. And interestingly, Dundee United are the only team that we've beat away this season. I don't know what to expect from this game. I genuinely had high hopes for the Hearts game, that we were going to go out, the fans were going to be upbeat, we're going to give them a show, scored the early goal, and then just went back to Drossland straight after. So I don't know. I mean, maybe the international break. The one thing with the international breaks, we came back from them fairly strong under Philippe Clement until the last one. And then when we came back from the last one, I think it was a Kilmarnock game, was it? Maybe I'm wrong, but we certainly got beat on the first game after the last international break, and that's garbage. We don't want that. And hopefully this one will be different. He's learned his lessons. We're at home. It's against Dundee United. We don't really like Dundee United, so we'll get a chance to put on a show there and see. But who knows? Honestly, who knows? And just interestingly, talking about the away games, I did a wee bit of research on that yesterday, and we've played 11 games thus far, and we've played 6 at home and 5 away. I'm going to concentrate on the 5 away. Over the 5 away games, we've had 1 win, the one that I mentioned, Dundee United, of course, 1 draw and 3 losses. So of a potential, 15 points, we have taken 4. And we are, 9 points behind in the league. So there's even another 2 points of a buffer in there that we could have wrestled with in some of the other games, say for example the game at Parkhead or the game at Pittodrie. But that just shows you where we're really garbage, to be perfectly honest with you. That's what's really being the story of the season. So we need to start picking up points away from home, actually picking up wins away from home. Let me be a bit more specific about that. So in terms of the shout outs for this week, I've actually got a few this week, which is kind of great. Some good, some one particular not so great, but The first one I'd like to do, I actually meant to do this last week, and it slipped my mind. I didn't put a note in to remind myself as I was going through it. But I'd like to wish Mike Kelly from Winnipeg Rangers Supporters Club a very, very happy 40th birthday. Now, I don't actually know when his birthday is, but I do know that he was surprised by his family there, who came over to Winnipeg to give him the most massive of surprises a couple of weeks back, or almost a couple of weeks back there. And the reason I know this is that Mike was heading back, and he was asking to see if we could get tickets for the Tottenham game and the subsequent Aberdeen game, and preferably the Tottenham game, but the Aberdeen game would be great as well. So we're just saying, okay, I'll get that organised. I'm at the movie theatre, or the pictures, depending on where you're listening to this, and I get a note saying, "Hi Gary, this is Mike's wife, Kendra, and if you get him tickets for either of these games, I will end you." I'm kind of paraphrasing. She was a bit more polite than that, and she gave me an idea of what the family were planning. So that's that, and that's what's happened there. So very, very happy birthday, Mike, for that. And I did ask him when his birthday was. He didn't get back to me in time prior to recording, so I'm not 100% sure when it is. But Mike's a great guy, been very active in the Winnipeg community, and is talking about coming back over to Calgary for the cup final in a few weeks here. So that's a great news story. And I would also like to wish a belated happy 80th birthday to former NARSA president and long-time treasurer Bobby Smith of Toronto Number 1. So Bobby and I go way back, probably back to 2006, 2007 or so, when we were organising our first convention here in Calgary, which was hosted in 2008, and subsequently kept in touch, off and on, until he persuaded me to join the NARSA executive in 2012. And I was very reluctant to join. I was like, I've got enough on here. I'm happy doing what I do for Calgary. This is just probably a wee bit too much this is too much more than what I'm willing to come on, Gary, that I'm willing to actually take on right now. But he convinced me to come on board. I've been on board, of course, ever since. That's 12 years since then, and we worked together for 6 years until Bobby resigned at the AGM in 2018, having given an incredible 25 plus years service to NARSA, which we got to commemorate, of course, at the convention too. So it was a fitting end, a great end for Bobby, and he's still very active in Toronto Number 1. And although things didn't quite end the way that either of us wanted in terms of his tenure for NARSA, it's still always very, very nice to see him at the conventions and grab a quick blether, see how he is, and he's still sprightly, still doing his thing. So a very, very happy belated 80th birthday there, Bobby, and I hope that you had a fantastic time and got spoiled by your family. On to a bit of a more somber note, there was information circulating online, I guess it was, what was that, late last week, maybe on the weekend, I can't remember exactly when it started, that Bramalea Rangers Supporters Club over in Brampton, Ontario, have closed the club physically. That the location that they have is now closed to their membership. I reached out to see what sort of support NARSA could provide, and we're going to get some discussions going this week. But what I did discover is that they were, I guess I should say, probably past tense, 31 years in their property. So they like Toronto Number 1, they rent their own property, and they deck it out in all the Rangers gear, and it's a private exclusive membership area for people to go. And having visited Bramalea a number of times over the years, it's by far my favourite Rangers supporters club that I've visited ever, and I mean that. And it was just a terrific time, up to and including we took the VIPs at the NARSA convention last year in Toronto over there for the Father's Day barbecue on the Sunday afternoon, to be able to kind of spread the love around a wee bit more. So it was a big surprise. I know that it was very difficult to continue to keep revenues at such a pace that you would be able to pay all the bills and such. It's kind of easier for me, for example. I have good friends who own the pub. They give me the key, I go down, I open up, I set up, do what I need to do, pour some pints, leave the money there, close up, we'll make sure the alarm's set, and then leave. And there's no additional monies attached to that. Very, very spoiled here in Calgary. I know that not everyone is around the continent here, but obviously Bramalea had overheads and such. No idea what happened. Kind of none of mine or NARSA's business, to be honest. But as I say, I've reached out to them to make sure they know that we're here, and to see what, if anything, we can do in terms of an interim solution to support their membership so they can still contribute to the club, their club, and still obviously be part of the Bramalea community as they, I assume, search for another property. So yeah, that's not so great news, especially after the fantastic memories that many of us will have had over at the Bramalea club there. So good luck to everyone over there, and please do let me know how I can help. And as I mentioned briefly earlier, in terms of the chairman, I was approached to communicate out to our membership a petition that has started by a fellow who resides in South Africa and is a colleague of Dave King. He's created a petition to get Dave King installed back in as chairman of Rangers Football Club, and is asking us to promote it. I put it onto the NARSA WhatsApp group yesterday, and there was a couple of folks who had a bit of dialogue. I'll put it in a link to the pod notes today for that, and if it's your thing, if you support that, to go and sign it and pass it on to whomever you think would also be equally as keen to sign it, by all means go ahead and do that. If you're not into it at all, that is 100% okay. This is not NARSA forcing anything on anyone. We were asked to pass it on, we've passed it on. I myself have went and signed it. I think that would be a good thing for the club, but I don't know all the internal goings on or comings and goings. What I do know is the last time we had a sustained period of success, which ended up being just basically one season and a wee bit, Dave King was our chairman, or certainly instrumental in providing the platform to do that. So I would be in support of that, and in lieu of anyone else, as I said earlier, that the club hasn't managed to appoint anyone, why not would be my particular point of view on that. But this is not a NARSA endorsed thing. If you're into it, go for it. If you're not, just ditch it and forget it and move on with your day. And in other fabulous news, talking about a potential Old Firm victory for the Rangers men's team in the middle of next month, the women's team beat that mob 3-2 away from home, by the way, yesterday, in a very, very long overdue victory in a major game. You might remember, if you're a regular listener, that I've been talking about the skids that the women's team just basically hit prior to the international break there. I think it was 3 or 4 draws out of 6 games, or 3 draws out of 5 or something like that. And with things being so tight at the top, and Hearts still doing very, very well, by the way, at the top of the league. If you haven't checked out the league table, I would encourage you to go do so. But interestingly, the story of the game is the Rangers went 1-0 up, then it was 1 each, 2-1 up, 2 each, and then scored the winner, a beauty, as it was as well. So still 1 point behind the Glasgow City, but that's a trademark victory, and I think that's a poignant foundational victory for them. It keeps the women's team 4 points ahead of them, that mob, and as I say, just the one behind Glasgow City. So significant, I think, is probably the best way to put it, and hopefully puts that other mob on a wee bit of a downer too, because they are getting their arses handed to them in the Champions League, which is just glorious to see. If any defeat for any of their teams is good for me. Not that I pay that much attention, but you get information that pops up on Sky Sports every now and again. Just a reminder of the NARCO Curry weekend that's coming up on the Valentine's weekend in February. It's in London, Ontario. Any questions, contact narco2025@outlook.com. The itinerary on the Thursday night is to meet up at the Scots Corner pub, home of the London Rangers Supporters Club. Friday, brewery tour, London Knights ice hockey game, and probably some bevies. Saturday the 15th, possibly Hearts versus Rangers. If not, that'll be the Sunday, and then the curry in the evening. The venue's still to be determined as far as I know, and then on the Sunday a farewell event at the Scots Corner too. Sounds like it's going to be a great time. In terms of the convention update, 206, this is the last time in the 200s, folks. 206 days and 29 weeks. We're now in the 20s of the weeks until we descend upon Kissimmee in Osceola County, Florida. That's, of course, June 12th to the 15th at the Omni Orlando at Champions Gate. We are still continuing to work with Rangers, and we've got some cool advertising things coming up over the next wee while. Just a reminder, the rooms are out for booking, the tickets are out for booking. I've seen a wee bit of an uptick in ticket sales over the last wee while, after it was a wee bit quiet, a wee bit slow there for quite a wee while, but we're we're getting some activity there, which is great, and we're going to do some more marketing, on our own in terms of NARSA, and see where Rangers can help us. We're in the process of creating a marketing plan that's going to get us between now and the end of the year, and then we'll spill that into 2025 too. So if you are planning to come to the convention and haven't yet purchased your tickets, please get on that as quickly as you can. It's very important for us to know how many people are going, so that we can then understand what periphery arrangements we can make with VIPs and various entertainment options and such. We're also going to be beefing up the communications plan, and there will be information coming out certainly next week. We'll start to start to communicate what the entertainment looks like for the Friday night. We've got that almost locked down. Certainly we have a couple of entertainers that we have secured, that we will be able to give you an idea of who they are and get things going a wee bit. So anyway, the main thing to take from this, if you're planning to go, please go to the NARSA website, please purchase your tickets so that you don't miss out, and give us that opportunity to know who is coming and when. On other business, I did mention last week that we had a NARSA executive meeting last week. Some very periphery business was conducted at the beginning, and then everything was about how do we continue to promote and market NARSA 2025, which is basically a summary of what I just told you there. For communications for this week, the Gers guide is out early for 2 weeks in a row now, which is great. And today, Rangers TV features the Rangers women's team highlights from yesterday's victory away, and then another continuation of the segment on Ibrox Stadium, the 125th year anniversary of that. Tomorrow there's a loan review, and Wednesday there's an international review, and Kirsty McLean and Jodie McCleary, part 2 of their segment on RTV called Our Journey. Of course, they came through from the academy to be in the Rangers women's team first team, so that's great as well. Not a lot going on Thursday. Friday, the press conference for the Dundee United game. There is also information about training at the Rangers Training Centre, and then a segment called All the Goals by Marvin Andrews, and Marvin's just such a great ambassador for the club, so it's great to see him featured there. I'm not exactly sure how many goals he scored for us, but certainly he was a major contributor to our successes on the field when he was there, and off the field since he's became an ambassador of sorts for the club. I'm not exactly sure what his title is. On Saturday, of course, is the game at home to Dundee United, and then on Sunday, interestingly enough, the Rangers women's team take on Dundee United too, and that's a 4 p.m. kick-off. A couple of things advertised by Rangers that I thought I would mention here. I just got an email, I think it was just this morning, actually, about the annual Rangers Burns Supper presented by Douglas Lang and Co, and that's going to be on the 24th of January, Friday the 24th of January, and it said, join Rangers legends and special guests at Edmiston House, presented by Parks Motor Group, on an evening that will include memories across 125 years of Ibrox, live traditional music, speeches, and of course the toast to the haggis. Raise a toast to the bard with a whiskey dram and from our partners Douglas Lang and Co, before enjoying a sumptuous 3-course Scottish meal with wine. Each guest will also receive an exclusive luxury gift to take home, so you can book your space by the 27th of November and you'll receive an early bird discount. And just note that prior to the 27th, that's going to be limited. Then after that, there's going to be a price increase basically. And you can go to the Edmiston House official supporters pre-sale, and that starts tomorrow on the 19th from 12 p.m. UK time, and then a general sale will be on the 20th, that's Wednesday, also 12 p.m. UK, or noon UK. And there's also a Christmas party night that is coming back to Ibrox with the ultimate Christmas celebration, it says, featuring live entertainment, festive vibes and holiday cheer. Tickets are now on sale for what they're calling the Rockin Christmas Party Night on Friday the 13th of December. So that's probably, probably about almost 4 weeks away, I guess, maybe 3.5 weeks away, something like that. 7 p.m. till midnight. Enjoy a glass of fizz on arrival with access to the trophy room, followed by a festive 3-course meal in the Thornton suite. And prices for that are £54 per person, which includes an arrival drink and your dinner and the access and the entertainment and Christmas crackers and such as well. So if you're interested in that, go to the Rangers website and you'll get information about that. Just another wee reminder also about the Rangers International International Coaching Convention. It's taking place in April the 3rd to the 6th, and I'll just leave the link there on the show notes for this week. Okay, that will do it, my friends. I'm very, very thankful that next week I'll get to talk about proper football, actual football that I watch on a consistent basis and that I care about, which is the Rangers men's first team, and I can't wait to see how we come back there. Here's hoping for a victory for the Rangers men's and women's team against Dundee United in both of their matches. As always, I'd like to take this time to thank you very much for listening, and please do pass it on to one person that you think might enjoy it. And here's hoping we come back from the international break with a bang, with some intention, with an opportunity to start to chip away at the gap that's already been created at the top and build up and into some good form for the cup final in the middle of next month. Until next week, my friends, take care and all the very best. Follow.